So this is the floor level in the garage, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the builder said that it's, all filled with concrete. I think he said it was like 4 feet of concrete in the slab, so it's not just cinder blocks and it's not empty and space back there. So I
4
think he said
feet
it's
of
about that there's a lot of concrete poured.
I mean, normally it'd be filled sand and then they pour a 4-inch slab on top of it. But he's claiming it's much thicker than that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, right here, this looks pretty much like a shrinkage crack. We're going to see if there's any rotation in the wall, but if it were filled all the way up to here, I'd be a little more concerned, but since it's filled up to here, I don't think there's enough overturning to cause that. I don't see any leaning in the wall there. And you would predict that you would have a shrinkage crack every 20 or so feet in a concrete wall. Sometimes they pop in the middle. In this case, it was restrained at the corner, so it just cracked there. Then you have another crack over here. It's pretty much like a shrinkage crack as well. That's a little bit more modest and kind of closer together, but not nearly as noteworthy. Jack here. Trimmed it out with a block.
Hmm?
As they trimmed it out with a block at the top and then on the slab. No, that's kind of appropriate, yeah. But
Hi.
How are you today?
Good.
You guys got the whole tribe out here today.
so
Yeah.
Should throw something on the cooker or something.
You're cooking.
I'm down. As long as I don't have to pay for it.
see along here, there's like
Cook
some
and clean.
separation in this joint. I'm not sure. I mean, if it were the slabs, if the wall was settled a little bit, the slab will still stay on top of it. That's what it's sitting on.
Mm-hmm.
So
The string above is
it's like
to sort of help, but are they able, are your
I'd be
kids able?
concerned that there might be something in there that might be rusting or something, picking that up.
So that was like a good distance.
There's because there's no cracks going vertically. It's just
Yeah.
that
Oh, I see, Yeah, I'm just amazed as many that people are able to balance, like walk across, a wire.
Yeah, I don't see any differential settlement or anything like that. I just wonder why we have this horizontal crack along here. All the way. There's a piece of flashing in there or something. Put in there. Maybe this one else. Who was the builder on this one?
Reliant Construction.
Speak on those handsome Canadian geese out there.
yeah.
That's the place to speak. Some of the frequency might be coming from that water heater, Thoughts?
Water heater.
Yeah, because it's coming from that corner.
Where is it?
The water heater's in the corner of that basement.
Yeah.
Where the heavy duty leakage.
Let's look. We'll go back around. Yeah.
The water table itself. Well, I don't see anything really thick. I just studied everything I see. So you obviously there's, once you get pretty low, there's some water under the house. Where that water's coming from is either from just these mulch beds here. Everything comes straight away from the house. So that's the only way water, surface water, can get in. But you might have a groundwater table that comes here. You know, it might be 2 feet, you know, below the surface of that. It comes back, and if it gets to the bank, it comes to the surface.
No reason to think that it's originated inside the house.
What's the water bill like?
I have it. It's
Me-
really low. Highest it was like 56
If
bucks.
the meter's not spinning, you know, sometimes the pipe could be damaged, but you'd know if you had a leak going
Would
on.
it at some point have to be a compaction
$59, 29,
solution?
37, 32, 49.
You know what I'm saying?
Really
Yeah.
low.
Well, you mean compaction?
Well, if there's a water table that's deteriorating the foundation on which the house sits, you know, would a compaction operation be something?
Well, yeah, you're right to be a little bit concerned about water moving under the house. What I do is you want to try to cut it off. And I don't, you know, you've done a good job of collecting the surface water. But what we might want to do is come in here and put a French drain around the perimeter that got down to the top of the footing. And that would depress the water table before it got under the house. Because that's what I see here is if we didn't have this house here and it banked off like that, there would probably start to see little weeps in the soil because
I see. Did you see that French drain off the corner there?
well, I saw that French drain. These are supposedly going to the street, right?
Yeah, right where those rocks are on the corner.
Okay. And then
There's one on the back also of the house.
what is this a well here or what is this?
No, it's not well water, but that's where he.
Sprinkler system?
Yeah, that right there is.
Okay. And then here, I mean, water can run down here and find this gap. Oh, this is very sealed up. And then we'll run to the sides.
And then
To
there's
this
another,
drain, which goes to probably out to there somewhere.
there's another one back here also. Goes up to this.
Why do you think it's particularly red coming straight out the ground here? Iron?
Iron impurities in the soil.
Where's that iron coming from, you think?
Well, it could come from reinforcing. Now, this is
Saying it's underneath the concrete and the bedding there, maybe?
yeah, whatever soil or fill is in there,
I see.
it's leaching out
I
through
see.
there.
Okay. Okay. So it's not being brought to the situation from somewhere. All right.
We all have that rust staining like on our fences and stuff from the sprinklers.
Oh.
So it's coming from the ground, the minerals in the ground,
Mm.
all that rust.
Right
Because
on.
you can see it on the sides of fencing and stuff where the sprinklers spray,
All right.
and you can spray it off with a solution from Home Depot.
But it's coming out red. You see, it's coming out red.
Mhm. But anyway, water's getting down in here, either from the surface water, the groundwater table, a combination thereof, and wants to come out. So it's low. Another solution might be come back and backfill along here, bring the grade back up a little bit with I'm going to put down some clay first, some impermeable clay, and seal it off.
That also might be clay down there, not iron.
Yeah, I mean, iron's coming out of the soil. I've seen some where we put through driveways, and if you have a lot of iron in the soil, the whole driveway would turn red.
We definitely have clay back here.
Yeah.
In the soil.
And that kind of gives you can have what we call a perch water table, because the water it gets down to that clay layer, can't seep through it, and then it will run along that until it can find a way
We'll
out.
play with it.
Yeah.
So that clay is that clay layer that's being pulled along and out the crack here, the deterioration of that clay layer, is that anything that you see being?
Well, anytime you have material being displaced out from under the slab, I don't think it's being displaced that rapidly, but you know, normally if you anticipated drainage like it's a retaining wall, we put filter cloth down. But he probably didn't put filter cloth down. But the more I think about it, if you just came here and brought a berm back up along here, start out with some clay, get up to about here, about where your downspouts are, and throw a little topsoil on it, plant a few bushes, whatever, or something. That would also cut off this route for water to perk through under there. It's just finding a way out because it's lower down here.
Given the age of the house and the size of the crack, and there's one and another one, does any of that all come together as being anything altogether for you?
Well, those are just very typical shrinkage cracks there. This one's a little bit bigger because it's restrained at the corner and there are no other cracks along the way. It might be rotating ever so slightly, but I don't see a lot of lean. It's filled up to here, right? Because as you start to get up to here, I start to say, okay, what size is that foot?
What size is what?
What size is that foot? It's just been designed to cantilever retaining wall. My only concern would be, you know, when you do a filled slab, is this could start to rotate out on you a little bit if the fill's too high. Another solution for that, if you do observe that, is to come back in here and put a rod epoxied in, and you know,
Drill it from one side, bolt it in.
and you probably, if you've noticed the wall was starting to lean, you come in there and hit it, you know, because that's right where the slab is, so you just go ahead and put it into the slab. When I design a filled slab, I have a rebar come up out of the block and turn it into a slab. But I allow the wall to be up to 2 feet tall without that. So 2 feet, you're usually not dealing with a problem, but it's 3 feet, and you start to be a...
What about plumbing and piping that might exist underneath the slab and amongst all of the layers of foundation here that could have broken when a crack occurred? Is that a possibility?
Well, if you have a lot of settlement, you know, PVC can be, you know, break, and if you run it through a foundation element, you're supposed to sleeve it, because there you don't have any ability to flex. So you sleeve it so the pipe can move a little bit. But again,
You see it in the water bill though.
yeah, you see it. You see it. You know, and the sanitary is probably less vulnerable to damage. But I think this could be. You're looking at a combination of a surface / groundwater, maybe a perch water table. In effect, finding the lowest place it can get out.
Did you have a chance to take a look at the two previous
No, I haven't looked at it.
analyses?
I haven't seen anything.
This has been an issue. 2014, there was somebody that came out and looked at it, somebody like you, and then 2016, it was maybe the same person came out. So it's hard for a buyer to look at this and go, is this an improvement over what it was before? Has the problem stayed the same, or has the problem gotten worse?
Well, obviously, the first thing you do is you take care of all the surface water, and they've tried to do that. It looks like a pretty good job of it. Okay, so we know, for the most part, we still might be getting some surface water in around those planting beds, soaking into the ground, and then once it hits that, gets to the fill for the slab, it's just a bed of sand. It can go from there to here at no time. So, like I said, one solution would be going along in front of the house and put in a drain that's down at the top of the footing level. That would intercept any water that was either coming in from the surface or any
At
groundwater.
the footing level, so you're digging down a little bit and putting a drain in. That's
Yeah.
what I see.
And that would cut that off, and then the water wouldn't get in here and then find its way out the back.
Yeah, and Mike, just to clarify too, the 2014, that stamp was not because there was a concern, though. That was just when you build a house, you have to have an engineer approve of the footing. So that's what that 2014 one is. The 2016,
So there was a review of the footings by an engineer.
correct, yeah,
Because you probably had some soils here that were,
right.
okay, they had to do some mitigation.
And then 2016, the buyers did have them come out, and that was before they put in this drainage system. So the engineer came out at that time and said these cracks that were already here back in 2016 were, in his findings, structure or cosmetic, kind of like what you're
Shrinkage
describing.
cracks, yeah.
Yeah, and so then he but he recommended that the same thing with the water. So this was the remediation of the, you know, of the water that was up against the house that was a nuisance. So that was the initial, that was what happened in 2016 in these drains. So my question is, if these cracks already existed, is it that they will continue to separate and worsen, in your opinion, with the water situation the way that it is? Or is it possible that these cracks were, because these are the same two cracks that are of concern, that the Whitleys addressed
I don't
in
think the cracks will
2016?
worsen much, because I don't think you're going to have much more shrinkage. And I don't think there's any other reason for it to move. I think the concern about water flowing under the house and moving material, compacting material is valid. Whenever you have water moving, it can cause soil to consolidate. It can cause soil, obviously, to wash out.
Right.
It can also eventually erode the block, and then eventually have a bigger hole down here with water coming out. So we really don't want water pushing through the block wall.
Okay.
So we either cut it off, like I said, by berming back here, or cut it off in the front by putting a drain along the front. But you don't want water flowing under the house and then making its way out.
Okay.
If that's a surface crack, where's the water coming from? It would seem to me that the crack goes all the way through.
Well, the crack probably does go all the way through, but that said, water will come through block without a crack.
Yeah.
Block is not a,
Well, yeah, it's this
Yeah.
stuff here that's
yeah. And then you'll see efflorescence along there, but
Yeah.
that means water's coming through and coming out.
right.
But yeah, here we have a little bit more water because obviously a little bit less friction to get through where there's a crack than pushing your way through the pores of the block. But no, the crack probably goes all the way through the block. And the face shells. I mean, because the block shrinks, it's restrained, it breaks. That's why you put, in commercial construction, you see control joints in masonry. They don't do it in residential, but sometimes it wouldn't be a bad idea. Especially if you're going to start to get the walls a little bit tall. I mean, you got a 2-course CMU wall, nobody notices if there are cracks in it. But if you go, this starts to look a little bit more. But you can come back here and repair this crack with some repair mortar, which is a mortar that's been modified with latex binding agent because it's hard to get mortar to stick otherwise. So you can go ahead and repair that, and that repair will probably hold up reasonably
Like
well.
parging
Yeah.
water.
Yeah. And like I said, I would think, now remember, it's not been exactly the driest year. Like the last couple of years haven't been particularly dry. So, I mean, our water table and water levels are pretty high as our soil level, probably your worst case scenario is occurring now, But
And it doesn't
it's
seem
just
to
sort
affect anything up higher either,
yeah, it would take a long time for this to actually show up as any damage. And about 10, 20, 30 years could still not be any big deal.
Okay.
But
If you had to pick, because you mentioned two options, would you say that even
the
if
second
you're
one I came up,
economically speaking
second one I
too-
came up with, just a berm along the back here, would probably be cheaper. You just get some clay fill.
What would the final product look like on this? If we
You'd
were
have like a berm against the back here. You could sod it and everything.
to make it look pretty, put some roses or
Right.
whatever.
And that would eliminate the moisture that collects down on the other side of here of the patio as well.
Well, that moisture's going to eventually find a way out somewhere else. It's hard to hear when it's quiet.
Yeah.
Sounds a little louder than 65 decibels too.
See, that's the longest thing. This flat area maybe went back a little bit further and it's all fill, solid, and everything inside. But see, with the soil, water can try to.
So at first look, what you suspect is there's an accumulation of moisture from the water coming from somewhere out from
It's
the
getting into
house.
that big sand pit that's under your house, and then trying to find a way out.
Would it, solution 2 or solution 1 was the landscaping solution,
There was a solution up in the front you're talking
Yeah,
about, right?
that would be to put in a French drain.
French drain
at the
down to the
foundation.
footing.
Basically
And,
pull the water down to that
Do
level.
you recommend that one to be a more effective one then?
It might be more effective.
What good would it
More
do,
expensive.
if any, to bore some weep holes through the block and let the water out?
Well, the problem,
But you're still gonna have migrating water.
yeah, the problem is we haven't set it up on the backside. We don't have filter cloth. We don't have anywhere to keep the fines and the soil from washing out.
Right.
You're better off letting the water just work its way through the block than give it
Give it help.
a channel that it actually can remove material from under the slab. I mean, that crack probably is only so effective because material gets jammed into it.
So this other side of the house here looks fairly dry, but you suspect that might be the source of some of the water we're seeing over here?
Yeah, well, the higher water gets into the, from the higher perimeter, gets into this, again, it's a big swimming pool with sand in it, and then it can go anywhere. And then it'll just find the lowest spot and come out there.
So, then just to be clear then, the idea of digging a footing and down to the footing and putting a French drain in would be something you would consider doing on each end of the house?
I do it along the front of the house.
Along the front of the house?
Front.
Catch it before it gets down under.
Right, because it's seeping
That
back
would
here.
depress the whole water table and all the water that's coming out your house.
Right.
So at that point, that's the highest the water could be. And that would
Just
be,
take it out here somewhere.
yeah, you take it back here to the,
Well, yeah, I was wondering about that. Where would the French drain go? Would it go from the front and then under the ground and then pop out here?
yeah, you just put a bubbler drain out here and
Oh, like this one.
Yeah, there's one right here. That one belongs to those guys.
And that was as a result of the 2016
Correct, yeah.
review?
Yeah.
So we're looking, what we're seeing here is 3 years of experience from the 2016 fix.
And those were already there in 2016. So it's kind of like do we have pictures to see if
I
it
mean,
got
it's
any
good
worse
to
or
get
not?
all the roof water collected and
Those were already
What's the
there
one?
in 2016.
Were the gutters put in as a result of that issue to
The
control
gutters
the
were
water?
already on the home
Oh, were
when
they?
we all purchased, but the French drains were not. So it used to be much more wet back here. And truthfully, I have a much different slope in my home, but we all have a groundwater. And I don't know if Mike can speak to this. We've talked about the soil and the clay in the soil, but this was all wetlands, so when the builder came and interrupted the soil and built these homes, in Virginia Beach, from my experience, it's hard to get your lawn established. It takes time because we've kind of interrupted the ground and to build something on it. So all of us in the neighborhood have had to work on some of the drainage as we've moved in, not just the Whitleys because of their sloping, but because of the sloping, they had more water pooling. It's all that water was collecting and moving out. So that was something they paid
And the
for later.
topsoil kind of acts like a sponge. So if you have the water coming through, getting in the topsoil, then you just have this spongy condition everywhere because it's constantly. This is like these condos where they're down over by the golf course. And it was in town. The ground is all the same way. They got 6 inches of topsoil that acts like a big sponge on a perched water table.
Right.
So how does the landscaping over here prevent the water from getting in up front? If that's what
It doesn't. It's built. You're building a dam to prevent it from coming. Okay. And yeah, you'd have water under your house, but every hot water house always has water. Anywhere here has water under it. That's not the issue. It's the moving water. But the more we talk it out, even though I think it'd be somewhat cheaper to go do that, you'd still have to extend that under the deck, like you said. So you have to get under the deck. It might be easier to put in the drain at the front.
Yeah.
You want to push. You don't want to go below the footing because you don't want to dry out the soil under the foot.
Sure.
That will cause other problems. But you come down to the top of the footing. You can even come down beside the footing, just not below the footing. Like that.
Footing is how, I don't know.
Usually it's going to be about bottom of the foot, maybe 16, 18, 20 inches to the ground.
Oh.
You're on fill here, so it might be a little deeper.
We can ask the builder too.
Yeah.
Will your analysis come complete with a cost estimate for the various alternatives and how effective you judge the
Well, I can
alternatives to
give
be?
you, well, I say engineer's cost estimate. I just call around and ask people, we're not familiar with the cost of doing certain types of work. But
Kind of refer to it as a
But-
ballpark.
But it's not a quote.
I understand. Yeah, well, you're
It
not
would-
doing the work.
Yeah.
We
It
do
would be a-
ballpark, which at least gives you a good place to start. If we say 5,000, you call somebody and say it's 30,000, like JS or something.
You should
then
be able to
kind,
get-
then you kind of know there might be an issue. Or if you call somebody and we're saying it's 5,000 and they're saying it's $500.
They,
You know, there
they
might be
don't
an
understand the
issue.
scope of work.
Well, there's some aspect of this that's warranted. Is that correct? But did he just warrant his work?
The foundation itself has a 10-year builder warranty on it. So
Yeah.
if there's
Are you talking
but the groundwater is not going to be part of that. I can tell you right now. That's going to be a
Usually for the under draining along the foundation, kind of back to the sides a little bit, you're looking at around $3,000. Maybe you can get a little bit cheaper. It's labor intensive. When anything's labor intensive, there's a lot of variables. The problem is you don't want to have somebody doing it who's just throwing a bunch of, I would say, unskilled labor at it, because you can screw up a lot of things. You know, it doesn't do any good to put this French drain in all the way around the house and then put an impermeable clay on top of it. I've had that happen. You know, it's
No
like,
water gets to the drain.
yeah, it's like we just backfilled what was here. Well, the problem is we have a perched water table, which is because we have a impermeable clay, and you backfill with that. But we're very specific in our detail about how to cover it up.
So you're fairly certain with what you've seen so far here that the water is coming from the front and migrating down. It's not coming from within the slab itself.
Nor is it coming from the roof, it seems, although maybe at some point in the early past it could have been a source.
I mean, if you have leaks in your walls, some water running down your walls, you probably know it by now.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you, it makes itself apparent, right? So you'd know that by now, and you'd see other things going on here. That would certainly bring water down and put it under your house. But given the lay of the land here, you don't need to invoke those mechanisms to get water under the house. There's plenty of just the way this terrain is and everything.
The tricky part for me, or from my end, just since we're all here, is hearing Mike say, yes, we can remedy this water situation, we can make it even better, but knowing that he's saying that it would take years and years and years for there to ever potentially be any damage to the foundation. We're talking 10 to 30 years from now. That makes it something that we can't go to the warranty company and say, hey, warranty company, well, I have an engineer here that says that maybe in 30 years, the water, if it continues this way, will start to affect the foundation. So that's where it's tricky for me. If he's saying
Well,
the only thing that
that's
could happen
really a
here-
subjective analysis.
Water can, the one thing that water can do rapidly because the situation changes is freeze. So, if you got a crack of water in it and it freezes, it might be a couple of years before we have a big hole down there. So I haven't done all the, but yeah. Right now, the way things are progressing, but the mechanism, we're standing here 70 degrees thinking about what happens when the water freezes. That's when I see the shells will pop out of the block, and then you'll have a big hole, and now the material can rapidly move.
So if you're able to, whatever you can put
So it could
in a
become
report, yeah, so that would, anything like that might be beneficial
Okay.
in me using, or trying to get the warranty company to,
To this point, I don't think there's much damage that's occurred as a result of it.
right.
It
that's
could
what we
become
were-
unstable due to like a freeze-thaw cycles. There's a bunch of water in there at the same time it freezes, and all of a sudden the face shells start popping off the block. Now you're starting to lose the foundation wall.
Right.
And at some point, when a number of different groups of people are coming in and doing things all about the same problem, warrantors become less and less likely to warranty any subsequent work that's done because of all of the things that may have been that may cause damage done by all of these previous jobs, which those warrantors had no vision of. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
So the more you do, the less likely you are in any event, no matter what the problem is, to get a future warranty. It seems.
So I take it there's no apparent distress occurring to the slabs in the interior of the house. Everything's flat level. No.
Yeah,
No
all
squeaking.
doors, windows, everything opens, no squeaking, no, yeah.
Okay, so we'll just take that as rendered and we'll do it. Okay, if we can get you to fill out a little form here, who's responsible?
Lindsay is, she's inside, so maybe we can go up front.
Are you gonna, as part of your review, gonna go back and take a look at the 2014, 2016?
Yeah, if I have other documents, if you can get those to me. I don't know if they've been emailed to me yet, but
I saw a cover letter. You had the cover letter,
still
two
have
cover
those?
letters. But there was some backup material that the letters referenced that would probably be at the office where the other engineer did his work.
Probably to get a hold of that other engineer and get their pictures and their report. I would think. I mean, there was the 2 stamped letters is what I had.
Mm-hmm.
That was it.
I just scanned one of them though, and it looked like it was referring to data or some other information that they had in the office, and that was just a cover letter
Yeah.
describing in broad terms.
If you can,
Yeah,
if you
we'll
can
get that
provide
letter.
with that data out, certainly any more information is better. I have
Okay.
to look at things on the surface and try to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
I have
Well,
all-
do you
all
still
that
you have the hard copies?
Education that supposedly makes it so
I
I
think
know
we
what's
left
going on,
them
but
here.
any other
I took a
information
picture
is
of them.
Okay.
would be appreciated.
Because I can go inside and grab them. If you guys are all finished, I'll go get you up inside with Lindsay. She can sign that, and I'll get those other documents.
Okay,
Do you have any more questions for me?
so you're gonna want a report discussing this and the solution, and obviously the fact that things could become unstable if certain circumstances occur.
Well, just the overall bad idea of having water traversing under your
Yeah, you don't want water
foundation,
moving.
and that's kind of what's going on here.
And then it freezes sometimes.
Well, maybe.
Well,
Maybe,
it probably it could happen. I
Yeah.
mean,
Does it get that cold to freeze it? It gets kind
it
of
does,
chilly.
yeah.
It's
It gets
weird.
cold enough at times. Every once in a while, every couple 3 years, people start complaining about, oh, we got water leaks on the walls, high on the walls. It's like, yeah, it's ice damming, but it only happens infrequently enough. People forget about it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
Very good.
And we need to know from Randy how soon we can expect.
Oh, that's up to those two to
The what?
hash that out.
The what?
How
When
soon
to
we can-
expect the report.
Yeah.
Middle of
because
next
they're kinda
week.
eager.
Middle of next
Middle
week.
of next
Middle's
week.
probably middle to end of next week.
Okay.
Usually it's 3 to 5 business days, and everything's on track right now. So.
Good.
Don't say that, but
Should probably extend
usually it's 3 to
the-
5
the
days,
whole
and usually
pickup.
after 3 days, I recommend call and bug us a little bit.
Yeah.
We're just overwhelmed.
I have
right
some
now.
ideas, like, because I'm
Things
going
tend
through
to slip
this.
through the
It's,
cracks
like, must be my
sometimes.
I was gonna
foundation
say,
month.
Do the crack.
We had
People
another
cut
property.
in line.
Yeah.
So what we did was
Nobody
we
ever called. You don't ever call.
ratified the
other
other
people
items,
cutting in
and
line.
then we
I guarantee you.
extended
There are other people
item number
who are
1
lighting this up,
until
they
the
gotta have their
state.
stuff.
So we
Oh,
could,
yeah.
we could just keep
So,
it. Wouldn't have
like,
thought
yeah,
of
go
that
ahead.
unless
Get-
it didn't
get
just
the appraisal
happen.
We tend to
Yeah,
hate
yeah,
the minute
okay.
something
Yeah.
squeaky wheel gets oiled.
We
but-
start
And
moving
you can
stuff
always
to the-
word it, and you
top,
know, you can
and
talk to your
then
broker
at
too.
work
That's what I
until
did,
midnight,
but
like
try and
that.
word it in a way that protects
we have
both
caught up, but
parties,
we got
you know, and ratify it that
Mhm.
way.
Well,
That
not
dependent on
people
his
left behind,
findings, that will agree to
um,
repair X, Y, and Z. I mean, we can always talk about that too. I don't know what you feel more comfortable with, but that's yeah.